Before demons became creatures of hell, before they were imagined with horns, fire, and wings, the people of Babylon already feared invisible beings that could enter a house, attack a body, disturb sleep, and bring disease. But these were not demons in the modern sense. Ancient Babylonian demonology belonged to the wider world of Mesopotamia, shaped by Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian traditions. In this world, demons were not simply evil monsters from stories. They were part of how people explained danger, sickness, death, misfortune, nightmares, witchcraft, and the terrifying moments when life suddenly seemed out of human control. A demon could be blamed when a person became sick without a clear reason. It could be connected to a fever, a nightmare, a failed pregnancy, the death of an infant, or a house believed to be polluted by unseen forces. For the Babylonians, the invisible world was not far away. It was close to the body, close to the bed, close to the doorway. This does not mean Mesopotamians had no medicine. They did. Their medical texts included symptoms, treatments, ingredients, and diagnoses. But healing was often connected with ritual. A disease could be treated with remedies, while its hidden cause could be addressed through incantations, purification, and protective objects. Researchers such as Markham J. Geller have pointed out that the Mesopotamian ritual specialist known as the Asakku should not be understood only as an exorcist in the modern horror sense. The Asakku was a trained expert who dealt with illness, omens, curses, witchcraft, divine anger, and demonic threats. His role was not just to remove evil, but to identify what kind of unseen force might be affecting a person, a family, or a place. One of the most important names in this tradition is Utukku, known in Akkadian as Utukku. The term could refer to a spirit or demon, and it was not always purely evil. But the evil Utukku became a major figure in Mesopotamian incantation texts. These texts were not written for entertainment. They were ritual tools, meant to name the harmful force and drive it away. Another figure is the Gallu, a demon connected with night, silence, and oppressive attack. The Gallu is not always described as a clear physical monster. Its danger comes from its presence and its effects. This is common in Babylonian demonology. A demon is often known less by how it looks and more by what it causes. There is also the Rabisu, often translated as the lurker. This demon was associated with waiting, ambush, and dangerous places such as roads, doors, and thresholds. In Mesopotamian thought, boundaries mattered. A doorway was not only an entrance, it was a weak point between the protected space of the house and the dangerous world outside. Other names appear again and again in the texts. The Gallu demons were linked with the underworld and the seizing of victims. The Asakku was associated with disease and destructive force. The Sebettu, or the Seven, were a powerful group of supernatural beings whose role could change depending on the text. Researcher Gina Konstantopoulos has shown that figures like the Sebettu cannot always be placed into one simple category. In one context, they may appear destructive. In another, they may be connected with divine power or protection. This is what makes Babylonian demonology so different from a simple list of monsters. It was a system of fear, healing, ritual, and protection. The Babylonians believed that invisible dangers could be named, blocked, expelled, or redirected. Names mattered because a named danger was no longer completely unknown. Rituals mattered because they gave people a way to respond. Amulets, figurines, and incantations were not decorations. They were defenses against forces believed to move through sickness, dreams, wind, darkness, and vulnerable spaces. For the people of Babylon, demons were not distant legends. They were explanations for the moments when the world became unsafe. A fever, a nightmare, a sick child, a cursed house, a presence near the doorway, and once that presence had a name, there was at least a chance it could be fought. Among the demons of Mesopotamia, few were feared as much as Lamashtu. Lamashtu was not a vague spirit or a nameless force. She had a clear identity in the texts and in surviving amulets. She was usually described as a female demon, and in some traditions she was called the daughter of Anu, the sky god. That detail is important because it means she was not imagined as a minor creature from the edge of the world. She was connected to the divine order, but she acted against human life. Her main victims were among the most vulnerable: pregnant women, mothers, newborn babies, and infants. Lamashtu was associated with miscarriage, difficult birth, infant sickness, and sudden death. In a world where childbirth was already dangerous, she became one of the most frightening explanations for what could go wrong. When a baby weakened, when a mother became ill, or when a pregnancy failed, Lamashtu could be understood as the hidden force behind the tragedy. In art and ritual objects, she was often shown as a hybrid monster. Her form could include animal features such as a lion-like head, bird talons, and other unnatural details. Sometimes she appears standing or kneeling, surrounded by animals, symbols, and ritual imagery. These images were not created just to show what she looked like. They were part of a protective system. The goal was to identify her, control her, and force her away. Mesopotamian amulets against Lamashtu often show a strange ritual scene. Lamashtu may be displayed while other figures confront or repel her. These objects could include inscriptions, divine symbols, and protective beings. They were used especially in contexts connected with childbirth and infant protection. This is where Pazuzu becomes important. Today, Pazuzu is famous because of modern horror films, but the ancient figure is more complex. In Mesopotamian tradition, Pazuzu was known as a king of evil wind demons. He was associated with dangerous winds, disease-bearing air, and hostile forces that came from outside the protected human space. He was not a gentle spirit. He was not a simple protector. He was frightening by nature. In many depictions, Pazuzu appears as a hybrid being, part human, part animal, with wings, claws, a distorted face, and a threatening posture. His image was meant to look powerful and dangerous, but that danger could be turned outward. This is the key point. Pazuzu was often used against Lamashtu. His head could appear on pendants. His image could be worn by pregnant women or placed near vulnerable people. The logic was not that Pazuzu was good in a simple moral sense. The logic was that one dangerous supernatural power could drive away another. A demon could be used against a demon. This idea may seem strange today, but it was very important in Mesopotamian protective magic. Protection did not always come from soft or comforting images. Sometimes protection came from something terrifying. A monstrous face could guard a doorway. A frightening figure could be placed near a bed. A dangerous name could be invoked to push back a greater threat. Researchers such as Franz Wigemann have shown that Mesopotamian protective rituals often used hybrid creatures and supernatural guardians in specific locations. These figures were placed where danger was believed to enter: doors, corners, thresholds, rooms, and the spaces around the body. In the case of Lamashtu, the danger was extremely personal. It was not only about the city, the temple, or the king. It was about the mother and the child. It was about the bed, the womb, the cradle, and the first fragile days of life. That is why these rituals feel so dark even now. They show a world where the most private moments of human life were believed to be exposed to invisible attack. But they also show how seriously the Babylonians tried to respond. They named the demon. They made images of her. They created amulets. They used incantations. They called on gods and protective forces. They placed terrifying figures between the human body and the unseen threat. Lamashtu and Pazuzu reveal one of the most important patterns in Babylonian demonology. Evil was not always fought with something pure and gentle. Sometimes it was fought with something equally frightening. For the people of Mesopotamia, the question was not whether a protective image looked beautiful. The question was whether it could stand at the edge of danger and make the demon turn away. To understand Babylonian demons, we also need to understand protection. The people of Mesopotamia did not only name demons, they built systems against them. These systems included prayers, incantations, amulets, figurines, purification rituals, and protective images placed in important parts of a house or building. One of the key ideas was that evil could enter through weak points. A door was not just a door. A threshold was not just a piece of architecture. A corner, a room, a gate, or the space under the floor could become important because these were places where the protected world and the outside world met. In Mesopotamian belief, danger could cross these boundaries, so protection had to be placed there. This is why archaeologists have found protective figurines in Mesopotamian sites. These small figures could be made of clay or other materials and placed in specific locations, often connected with entrances, corners, or floors. The Metropolitan Museum of Art notes that in the Neo-Assyrian period, people used modest clay figurines to guard their homes against evil forces. These figures could represent gods, animals, hybrid creatures, or protective beings. Franz Wigermann's work on Mesopotamian protective spirits is important here. He studied ritual texts that describe how supernatural figures were used to guard buildings. Some of these figures were frightening in appearance: hybrid beings, monsters, armed spirits, or creatures linked with divine power. Their purpose was Apotropaic, meaning they were meant to turn away evil. This tells us something important. The ancient Mesopotamians did not see protection as only gentle or comforting. Protection could be aggressive. It could look dangerous. A guardian could be terrifying because it was supposed to confront terrifying things. The same logic appears in amulets. An amulet was not simply jewelry. It was a portable defense. It could carry a divine symbol, a written formula, or the image of a powerful being. A person could wear it close to the body, especially in situations of danger: illness, pregnancy, childbirth, travel, or exposure to suspected witchcraft. Incantations also played a major role. These were spoken formulas used to address, command, repel, or purify. They could call on gods such as Ea, Marduk, Shamash, or other divine powers. They could name the demon directly, describe its harmful action, and order it to leave. In this system, words had power, names had power, images had power, placement had power. A ritual was not random. It followed a structure. The specialist, the Ashipu, had to know what force was being dealt with and what method was needed. Was the danger a demon, a curse, witchcraft, the anger of a god, the ghost of the dead? These categories could overlap, but identifying the threat was part of the response. This is why Babylonian demonology cannot be separated from scholarship. It was recorded, organized, and transmitted through trained experts. The fear was real, but the response was also intellectual. People studied these forces, they copied texts, they preserved names, they built ritual knowledge over generations. The result was a world where demons were not just supernatural enemies. They were part of a larger system explaining why suffering happened and how people could fight back. Utukku, Alu, Rabisu, Gallu, Asakku, Lamashtu, Pazuzu, and the Sebettu all show different sides of this system. Some were connected with illness, some with the night, some with thresholds, some with the underworld, some with childbirth, some with wind and disease, and some could be used as protection against others. This is the dark logic at the center of Babylonian demonology. The world was full of invisible danger, but that danger was not completely beyond response. It could be named, it could be blocked, it could be redirected, it could be forced away through ritual, image, and sacred speech. For modern viewers, these beings may look like ancient myths, but for the people who feared them, they explained the most serious moments of life. A body failing without warning, a child dying too young, a dream that felt like an attack, a house that no longer felt safe, a presence believed to be standing at the edge of the room. The demons of Babylon were frightening, not because they belonged to some distant fantasy world, but because they were tied to everyday human fear. Sickness, death, sleep, birth, the home, the doorway, the unknown, and maybe that is why they still feel disturbing today. Because behind all the names, rituals, and ancient tablets, there is one simple question the Babylonians were trying to answer. When something invisible enters your life, how do you make it leave?